And we are almost at the end of another 72-hour fast. That's right. This week has gone by so quickly. And I am excited to talk to you, let you know what's been going on this week as we fasted. We're talking about putting diabetes in remission. We're talking about reversing diabetes and using fasting as that amazing tool that hits all the pillars that we have talked about in reversing diabetes. And we're going to do a review of that tonight on this episode. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, y'all, new year, new you. That's right. If you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments because we'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that we're happy that you're here. If you're new and you have questions, go ahead and put those in the chat so that we can get to those as we move through the show, this episode of the show. If you've not already done so, make sure that you go back and you watch our Dwain Woode MD Live where we introduce the COPE model, that model that helps us deal with the heat, right? So get out of the heat. Those triggers that push us to eat, that get off of our eating plan, get off of our meal plan. So make sure you get over there and watch that. We introduced it a couple weeks ago, and then we refined it this past episode, and we're going to be continuing that on Dwain Woode ND Live. But just glad that you're here. I do see some of our community members out there. I see Steve is saying hello. Whatever platform you're joining us from, by the way, if you're on Twitch, if you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, of course, here on YouTube, any of those platforms, and then of course Instagram, we welcome you to this space, and we're excited that you are here to join us. Now, like we do, you guys know how we do, and if you're new, you're going to learn how we do. I've got my monitors that we're going to look at here in just a minute to see what's been going on with my blood sugars, and then right below that is my Dexcom Clarity report that we'll look at over the last several days as I've been fasting. And so I am right now a little over 71 hours, right? A little over 71 hours in the fast. The fast is going to end at 7 o'clock. Well, that's the end of the 72 hours at 7 o'clock. I've got some stuff over here I'm going to use to break my fast, right? You guys see that over there? Maybe I can do, there you go, right here. Okay, you see that? And you can get an idea of what some of that is. But we'll talk about that as we move through the show tonight. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at my blood sugar as it's being recorded by my Libre and my Dexcom. So right now the Libre says that my blood sugar is 64. Down at the bottom, all the way at the bottom, you'll see those dashed green lines, and it says 8 days. So that's how long this sensor has left. But if you move up, you'll see the other green area, that bar, green bar. So that is what the range of my blood sugars, the target range for my blood sugars right now. It's actually set from 70 to about 150. So anytime it goes above 150, it alarms. And anytime it goes below 70, it alarms. And you'll see the bottom of that bar is a dashed red line. And for part of the day, my blood sugars have been that white squiggly line. Those are my blood sugars, and they're just above 70. So probably, I don't know, 71, 72 in some cases, and then sometimes probably about, I don't know, 71, 73 earlier in the morning. And then right about noon or 12:15, 12:30, you'll see that the blood sugar dropped below 70 and it stayed there. So that's the red line that you see in the second half of the day. Right, so it stayed there, and of course now it is 62 according to what you're seeing there on the screen. And if I jump over to my Dexcom, this is a Dexcom G7, and let me make it 12 hours so we can compare it. And if I do put my finger over, you'll see what my blood sugars are now, and they've been running into the upper 70s, low 80s. Earlier in the day, just kind of tracking with what the other graph said, I was right above 100, 101, 102, 105. Early in the morning, I got up to about 119, 120, and that was probably about 7, 8 o'clock. And as you know, that's probably the toothpaste that's causing that spike. And then earlier before that, we're down in the 100s. If I go to 24 hours, if you remember when I checked in last night, we had just put a sensor on, and we were 75 blood sugar. And as the course of the night went on, you'll see their blood sugars went up, up to the upper 90s and low 100s. And of course, what we just looked at with that spike in the morning, they're at 122. Okay. And we'll talk a little bit more about those blood sugars as we get through the show. Now, let's take a look at what my monitors are showing. Get that plate out of the way. There we go. So these are my monitors. I've got a Keto Mojo, which gives me blood sugar and also gives me ketones. And of course, the Contour, which just gives me blood sugar. And that is a typical glucose meter. Yesterday, we showed you another one. I think that was the One Touch Vario Flex, I believe. And so let's go ahead and let's grab a Lancet. And I'm going to get just out of my container here, I'm going to get 2 Lancets. All right, and these are just the ones that normally would sit in a lancing device, as I demonstrated yesterday. I tend not to use a lancing device. I think for me, it's too cumbersome because I've got to take this, I've got to put it into the device, and then I've got to take this off, cover the device, and then use it. So I prefer to just grab one of these. All right. Well, let me do this first. Let me get the strip into the monitor. So this one is the Contour. And then here, I'm going to go ahead, we're going to start with the glucose strip. Get that in, but I'm going to open both of them because if you remember the last couple of times when I've done a finger stick, because it took a while to get that glucose or that ketone strip in, my blood dried and then I had to stick myself again. And we do not want that. So I'll leave that right there. That's going to be the one for the ketones. And then I'm going to just use, this is a simple one, simple Lancet. And basically you turn this part off and the Lancet is right there. Basically it's a little fine needle. All right. I don't know if you could see that. Okay. And then I'm going to just pick a finger. Let's do this one. And this one is a smaller one, so it actually, the smaller they are, actually, the more they hurt. So people think the bigger they are, the more they hurt. It's actually the opposite. All right, so that gave me a good drop of blood. Yeah, that one. Just, right, you see that? That's a big drop. So 67 is what the Keto Mojo says. And then 68 for the Contour. Let's go ahead and get the strip in for the ketones. Okay, and I shouldn't have to milk that anymore. Okay, so that one, we got that one going. And of course, as I always do, I'm going to tease you guys. I'm not going to show you what the actual number is. We're going to pop over here. And then we'll come back and we'll take a look at that in just a little while. As we get further into the show. All right, and let me move that off of that scene because sometimes I go back there and you guys see it when I don't want you to see it yet. Okay, we'll leave that one. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's do a check-in. And if you are fasting, or actually, let me back up and let me say anything that you're doing that you are trying to effect a change. You always want to be checking in with yourself, because that's the only way you know how your body's responding. So if you're going to start exercising, right, you want to check in. If you're going to start a new meal plan, you want to check in. If you're going to start working on studying better or saving money or whatever the thing is, right, you want to check in. And of course, here in this space, as we're talking about fasting, we want to make sure that we're checking in. And there's a particular strategy that we do when we're checking in. And you'll see that there on the screen. So I talk about how I'm doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. Physically, mentally, and emotionally. This is where a lot of people, or these areas are where a lot of people can have some challenges, right? Because these are the main areas. And I'll mention this again, but fasting is not just the abstinence from food. It's not just you not eating. It is a physical thing. It also affects our emotions and also affects our our mentation. So in the process of fasting, in order to be successful in fasting, we want to make sure that we're checking in with ourselves. And I usually do a check-in here at the beginning of the show to let you know how I'm feeling. So physically, I am actually feeling very energetic today. I've been resting over the last couple of days. You remember when I started at the beginning of this fasting period, I actually had been staying up late. I wasn't getting enough rest, and so that second day after that 24, 27-hour check-in, I was feeling drained. I was feeling weak and tired. And over the last couple of days, as we've gotten further into it, I've done a better job of getting rest, and that's a key that we'll talk about here in a minute. So I'm feeling energetic. Today didn't have much to do. We were planning to go away, and I'll talk about this in emotions in a minute. We were planning to go away, and that was canceled because of some weather that's coming through. And I was rested because we were going to have to drive, but we're here, and so didn't have to do that. But I got the rest anyway. Okay. Also, other things that people will talk about is feeling lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, having palpitations like their heart's racing or skipping a beat. I'm not feeling any of those right now because I've done a good job of hydrating. Right? When your blood pressure goes down because you're not hydrated, the heart has to speed up in order to circulate the same amount of blood, get the same oxygen, get the same nutrients to all of your organs. And so sometimes that will show up as palpitations. That is feeling your heart's racing, skipping a beat, or it's very pronounced in its beating. So that's physically. Mentally, I'm feeling clear. Once again, because I rested, then my mentation actually is not cloudy. I'm not feeling sluggish. I'm not feeling like I'm in a fog or in a daze. Those sometimes will go hand in hand, how you're feeling physically and and your mentation. Because if you're not rested, and you've been there before, you stayed up all night for that test that you're having the next day, and you find that you're actually more groggy. Well, not more groggy, but you're groggy, and so you don't think as well the next day. Probably would have been better to go to sleep and miss those 2 questions as opposed to staying up all night and missing those 10 questions. Okay? But right now I'm feeling pretty clear. I think my thought process is good, and I'm not having any sluggishness. And then emotionally, we were, this week we were planning to go away. We were going to have some fun. We had gotten the hotel, and we were going to go hang out with, this is a church group that we have. And so I was preparing for that. And then there was a question about whether we were going to go. I think I mentioned it to you guys here on the show when we checked in earlier this week. And then I got the message yesterday that we weren't going. Anyway, so that's been an interesting couple of hours, right? Interesting day or so, day and a half. So I'm excited that I'm getting to hang out with you guys. I'm excited that the weekend actually is going to be simpler than we initially planned, but a little disappointed that we're not getting to go on that trip. Okay, so physically, mentally, and emotionally, whenever you're changing anything, whenever you're fasting, whenever you're improving your health, you want to check in to see how you are in all of those areas. Awesome. All right, and so let's get into our talk. Let's get into our discussion for tonight. So we're talking about fasting. So fasting, we're doing a comprehensive review of fasting. But let's set it up for you. Why are we fasting? Well, there are over 1 billion people on the planet with diabetes or prediabetes. Not to mention all the people around the world that have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, fatty liver, obesity, polycystic ovarian syndrome. We can go on and on and on and on in all the metabolic diseases. Here, we're talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes. And fasting hits all 3 of the pillars that we've discussed: decreasing insulin, suppressing the appetite, and reducing sugar. Fasting hits all of those. And so it is a powerful way to set ourselves up for success in our diabetes reversal. Because if I'm not eating, I'm not putting anything in, so by virtue of that, my sugar's gone down. If my sugar's reduced, then insulin doesn't have to come out, or I don't have to take extra insulin. Insulin is an appetite stimulant. So if I've already decreased the insulin because I've cut back on the sugar, then my appetite is reduced. So all 3 pillars are hit by fasting. And it doesn't matter if you're fasting, if you're doing a shorter fast, like a 16-8 or a 12-12, or alternate day fasting, or one meal a day, or 5 and 2, or extended fasting, you get benefit in all of those areas. Right? Now, the longer fasts give you a bigger bang for your buck, but you still get benefit in all the fasting phases or all the fasting styles. So the reason we are fasting is because it is a tool that we're using for reversal of diabetes. Remember, we've learned several tools over the course of the New Year, New You process. As we walk through, there are several tools that we've learned. We learned fasting, of course, the 5 whys, emotional intelligence, mindful eating, how to create a menu, how to create a meal, right? What medications I should look at, what medications should I talk to my doctor about being on. And of course the COPE model that we learned, that we're in the process of learning now. So all of these are tools that we're using, and fasting is simply a tool that we use in the process of reversing diabetes. And for those of you who are out there who are not diabetic, I don't want you to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not diabetic, so this is not for me. Well, diabetes is the prototypic metabolic disease. Right, so it has components of a lot of the other chronic illnesses that we see in our society. And so if we can treat diabetes with these tools, we can take those and now we can use them in other areas. So if you're not diabetic, that's okay. If you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to improve your blood pressure or your cholesterol, if you're trying to tone, if you're trying to improve your polycystic ovarian disease, all of those, or syndrome, sorry, all of those can respond to the tools, and fasting is one of those. Okay, so that's why we're using fasting. And so in the process of that, we want to make sure that we're doing all that we can to set ourselves up for success, to use it in the most efficient way. And so what we're going to do, and as I normally do, we walk through fasting, all you need to know about fasting. We're going to come back and go through that. But I want to spend some time talking about the very first part of fasting. And you'll say, okay, is that the first 5 hours? Is it the first 10 hours? No, I'm actually talking about how we prepare for the fast. Yep. Because how we prepare for the fast is just as important as the fast itself, which is just as important as how we end the fast. So all of these are important, and the way we begin fasting sets us up for either success, or it sets us up for a difficult time. So we want to make sure that we're spending time setting ourselves up for the best possibility of being successful in our fast. And so we want to talk about preparing for the fast. And you guys know, as we've talked about fasting in the past, and we'll come back to giving the 4 areas, where we'll do a summary at the end, but just kind of generally as we talk about fasting, why is it important? Why is it so important that we prepare for the fast? Okay? Because preparing for the fast prepares the body, particularly for an extended fast, and it reduces the shock, right? So if you just, like I've had people, when we first started the New Year, New You process, when we introduced it at the beginning of the year, there were folks who say, okay, I'm going to do a 72-hour fast. And they came and boom, I'm going to do 72 hours. Well, it's a great idea. It's a great thought. It's a great ambition. But we probably should ease into fasting. If you remember, what we recommended was that we work our way up to a 24-hour fast. And then once you were doing a 24-hour fast once a week, then you could expand that to further fast as you went through the rest of the New Year, New You process, right? So preparing for the fast, it prepares the body, particularly when we're doing extended fast. And even if you're doing the 16-8, it minimizes some of the common side effects that people will feel, like fatigue, headaches, irritability, because we've done so a lot of those symptoms are symptoms that come from not doing a good job of preparing, right? We'll talk about that in just a minute. And then preparing for the fast, it helps to maintain focus on your purpose and your goal. Because as you're getting into the fast, one of the things that we want you to do is we want you to pay attention and say to yourself, okay, why am I doing this? Right? I've got my why. You've got your why. And at the beginning of the fast, as you get into the fast, you want to not reevaluate. You want to revisit that and consolidate that in your mind and say, okay, this is the reason that I'm doing it. Because if you get into the fast, and I'll give you an example. So last night, when I got off the show, I was 50 some hours into my fasting. And I started feeling a little nauseated. And when I started feeling nauseated, the natural tendency is to do what? Yeah, the natural tendency is go find something to eat to quiet the stomach or to drink something. And if I had not been thinking, I would have done that. Right? Just like I told you that one of our community members contacted me to say, hey, I went into my garden and without even thinking, I was picking some stuff and I started eating it. Right? So if we're not paying attention, then that can happen. But during the process of having the nausea, I said, okay, I'm feeling nauseated. Instead of just going and quote unquote fixing it, what is causing it? Why am I nauseated? And I realized I hadn't had anything to drink in a little bit, right? I've got my cup here, but I hadn't had anything to drink. And so I went and I drank, and the nausea resolved. So what is your why? Why are you doing the fasting? Okay. So when we talk about fasting, we want to talk about mental preparation. So one, we want to set clear goals. Understand why you're fasting, right? That goes back to what we just talked about. What is the goal? Is the goal to do a 24-hour fast? Am I doing the fast because I want to improve my insulin resistance? I want to lose weight? I want to get better blood sugars? I want to reverse my high blood pressure, high cholesterol? What is the reason that I'm doing this? Because this is going to help you understand why you're doing it. And then, am I doing a 72-hour fast, a 48-hour, 36, 24? Right? You want to set that in your mind. Don't say, okay, I'm just going to fast and I'll stop fasting when. Because when could be like the next hour. So set clear goals. What am I doing? Where am I going? Right? So when I set a 72-hour fast, I go to 72. And you guys have seen, sometimes I go beyond 72. But if I just leave it up in the air, after that 24 hours, sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm going to eat something. But I'm like, well, no, I can't eat because I'm going to 72. Or I'm going to 48, whatever the number is that you're going to be going to, right? Educate yourself. Visualize your success. So set clear goals and visualize your success. Imagine yourself completing the fast successfully and the benefits that you get from it. Right? So I'm going to fast. I'm going to fast for 24 hours. I'm going to fast for 36 hours. I'm going to complete the fast, and I'm envisioning it. This is what it's going to be like. This is what it's going to feel like. This is what I'm going to eat when I end the fast. And these are the benefits I'm getting. My weight's going to be lower. My blood sugars are going to be better. I'm going to be able to reduce some of the medications that I'm on. Right? Visualize it. Imagine it. The things that we tell our brain are the things that the brain finds support for. The brain will find evidence for those things. When we say we're going to fast successfully, the brain says, okay, that's what we're doing. And so it will minimize things around you so that you can be fasting. But if you say, okay, I don't know if I'm going to make this. I don't think I can make it to 24. I don't think I can make it to 36. Right? What does the brain do? It starts to find reasons why you can't make it. Oh, you're feeling nauseated. Okay. Oh, that headache is probably because you're not eating. That feeling of queasiness, that feeling of tiredness, that palpitation, right? So it starts to look in the environment and find support for what you're telling it. So visualize completing it and what the benefits are. And then educate yourself on the fasting method. So research the fasting you're going to do. We did several shows actually, where we broke fasting down into the types of fasts: 16-8, 12 and 12, 1 meal a day, alternate day fasting, 5 and 2. We went through all of the fasts. Well, not all, but a lot of them. And we also talked about what fasting method fixed or treated or is implicated in certain disease processes. All right, so make sure you go back and look at those shows. And then use affirmations to stay motivated during the fast. Affirmations are powerful. I am a faster. I am metabolically healthy. I am reversing my diabetes. I am improving my metabolic health. Affirmations. Not that I will be, I'm going to, but I am right now. It's kind of like one of the things that I hear people say is it's kind of like someone who smokes and no longer smokes, and they're in the beginning parts of that, or even longer into their quitting, and someone says, "Hey, do you want a cigarette?" And they can answer it in a couple of ways. One is, "No, thank you. I'm trying to quit." Or they could say, "No, thank you. I don't smoke." One is a future thing, I'm trying to, and there's a possibility that right now I could have one because the trying isn't working. The other is, this is just who I am. I don't smoke. So thank you for the offer, but I don't smoke. So there's not a possibility of, oh, maybe this time I'll do it, but I don't smoke. I'm not a smoker. I don't need a cigarette. I don't want one, right? So notice that one is a current personality. It is who I am. This is the persona that I've created. And affirmations are a powerful way of doing that, right? I am fasting. I am fasting for 72 hours. I am improving my metabolic disease. I am reversing my diabetes. All of those are ways to begin telling the brain what we want it to know. Okay, so set clear goals, affirmations, and then nutritionally preparing yourself. During your non-fasting times, you want to eat nutrient-dense foods, right? Nutrient-dense foods. Because if you don't do that, then during the fasting period, you may have deficits. You may be hungry, really hungry, not because of the fasting necessarily, but because you didn't do a good job preparing. And then, beyond that, as you're moving into the fast, you want to begin reducing your carbs and your sugars. Remember, anytime there's carbs or sugars, then they stimulate insulin. So if you're eating a high carb meal coming into the fasting, then it's going to stimulate insulin. Even though the insulin is going down during the fast, you've had this big burst of insulin, this big slur of insulin, and so it is stimulating your appetite in the midst of the fasting. And so you may have a little bit more challenge as you're trying to move through fasting. You want to increase your healthy fats. Healthy fats help you stay satiated, helps you feel full during the fast. And it blunts the rise in blood sugar from the food that you ate. You want to increase your water intake and electrolytes as you move into the fast. We're going to actually come back to that in a minute. So as you move into the fast, as you're coming to the fast, make sure you're hydrated. Because during the fast, most of us actually become slightly dehydrated, right? Because sometimes it's difficult to keep up, or we're not doing a good job. I should say it's difficult. We're not doing a good job of keeping up. And so increasing prior to the fasting helps you during the fast. Same thing with the electrolytes. And then you want to gradually reduce your eating window. That is, if you're going to do a 24-hour fast, right? So the days leading up to the fast, begin compressing the eating window. So if you're going to do a 24-hour fast, then do a 12 and 12. Then do a 18 and, what's 18 and what? 18 and 6. And then a 16 and 6, and right, so you're moving closer and closer and closer to an extended fast, and that's what we did at the beginning. If you remember when we introduced New Year, New You, the plan was that we were going to work our way into doing a 24-hour fast once a week. So wherever you were, if you were at 10 hours, then you went to 11 to 12. If you were at 12 hours, you went to 14. If you were 14, you went to 16. You're 16, you went to 18, and so forth, right? So gradually compressing the eating window until you're fasting at the level that you are looking for. Okay, and then hydration. So we're going to come back to this. So hydration: drink plenty of water before the fast begins. Most of us don't drink enough, even in non-fasting times, right? Most of us should be drinking about half our body weight in water. Now, if you have some specific medical issues where they've told you you can't do that, for instance, you have congestive heart failure, or you are a kidney patient, or you struggle with edema, right? Or you have psychogenic polydipsia or diabetes insipidus or any of those disease processes, then you make sure that you're talking to your healthcare providers and your healthcare team about, okay, how much water should I be drinking? But most of us, if we're healthy, should be drinking about half our body weight in ounces. So if you are 60 pounds, you should be drinking 30 ounces. If you're 100 pounds, you should be drinking 50 ounces. If you're 200 pounds, you should be drinking 100 ounces. So 1 gallon is 128 ounces. 1 gallon is 128 ounces. Okay. All right. Make sure you're taking in appropriate electrolytes as well. So here's where things like Gatorade, and there are Liquid IV. One of our community members has been good to tell us about some of those. So these are all things that you can use for hydration. And then you can drink herbal teas like green tea, chamomile, peppermint. And this helps hydration, but it also helps to relax you as you're moving into the fast. Right? You get that kind of nice, feel good. Okay? So make sure that you're remaining hydrated. And then hydration and electrolytes. We also want to make sure that we are preparing physically, right? So you want to begin, I'm going to go to the second point. So reduce strenuous exercise. And you can incorporate, I'm trying to find that word. You can incorporate light physical activities like walking and yoga, right? This improves circulation and it helps to reduce stress. Now, there is such a thing as the fasting workout, and that's a whole nother conversation that I think we did a show at the beginning of the New Year process talking about that. Go back and look at that on the playlist. But there is a fasting workout. But if that's not what we're working on, then in terms of getting into the fast, reducing strenuous exercise and engaging in light exercise, then you want to aim for quality sleep before you fast, right? Like I said at the beginning, I didn't do a good job earlier of doing this, and so you saw the ramifications of that or the results of that. And then begin reducing your caffeine or energy drinks to prevent the withdrawal symptoms during fasting, because if you don't do that, then you can set yourself up for some difficulty. Okay, and then big one. Remember the heat model? Right? We eat because of habits, emotions, access. Access has to do with our environment. So you want to clear out your environment from temptation. Remove unhealthy snacks and processed food from your environment. Create a fasting-free zone. Fasting-friendly zone. Right? So keep your kitchen stocked with healthy teas, water, fasting-supported drinks. I do, and I don't have one with me. I do artificially sweetened tea. I do water, probably more tea than water. And then prepare yourself for some distractions. Plan reading, walking, or meditation. This helps distract you from hunger. And then emotionally and socially inform your family, friends, your network. Let them know that you're fasting so that they can help you. This minimizes the distractions or minimizes their concern when they see what you're doing. Identify emotional triggers. Be aware of any triggers that you that may push you in the direction of breaking, right? Habits, emotions, access, and taste, the heat model. And then create accountability. Join a fasting group. Get a friend. Get a partner. Stay motivated. Stay accountable. And then, as you hear me say, right? Fasting is important. Get lots of rest. The 4 things. Get lots of rest, stay hydrated, reduce your stress, and then eat nutrient-dense meals. So preparing is just as important as the fast itself, and then, of course, as we move into the fast, ending the fast. Okay? All right. So we're going to hop over and we're going to talk about fasting review. And but I wanted to spend some time talking about getting into the fast, preparing for the fast. And now we're going to go through the rest of fasting. Before I do that, let me just say hello to some of our folks. I see Teresa. She said, "Hey, doctor and everyone." Steve is saying, "Hey, Teresa." Glad that you guys are there. For those of you who are on Instagram, Doug, thank you for coming through. Thank you for hanging out with us. And then, of course, if you are on Facebook, thank you for being there as well. Let me see if I can get over there. The Facebook folks, and right now I don't have the ability to bring my stuff on the screen, so I know that you are there. Thank you for joining us. All right. Okay. When I say stuff, I don't have the bringing your comments on the screen. All right, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at fasting. So when we talk about fasting, I usually break it into 3 categories: preparing for the fast, which we just did, getting through the fast, and then breaking the fast. So getting through the fast, we've talked, and most people think about fasting in 24-hour blocks or chunks. Here we're going to do it a little bit more granularly. We're going to talk about shorter times. And I usually go through the first, for instance, here we got the first 6 hours, 0 to 6 hours. And this is really the postprandial phase. This is where your body, you just finished eating, and the body is absorbing, breaking down the food into its nutrient parts, and it's absorbing that into the cells. We'll see here that the glucose levels are high because the food that you have has glucose in it. It has carbs. The carbohydrates are high. Insulin levels are high because it's responding to the carbs that you have in your system. And energy levels are high because you have that ready access to food, to the sugar that's there. And I equate sugar to that car, that drag racing, or two guys or gals are racing, and they're neck and neck, or one is losing, and they reach over and they hit that switch, and all of a sudden the car goes, Phew! That's sugar. Yep, that's what I think of with what's in that when they hit that switch. That's sugar. So your body has ready access to all of that as you are in the postprandial phase. Okay, energy levels are very high because it's using that glucose that just came from the food. And then the 6 to 12 hour window. This is the early fasting stage. The insulin levels are starting to go down because your body's absorbed the food, it's broken it down, the carbohydrates are going into the cells, and the blood sugar levels are starting to go down. And so insulin level now starts to go down as well. And glucagon is starting to come up. Remember, glucagon and insulin are opposite hormones. When blood sugars are high, insulin is out, and it brings the blood sugar down. When blood sugars go down, glucagon comes out to bring the blood sugar up. Right? So there's this yin and yang that goes on in the body in terms of keeping your blood sugars at a level that the body needs. So that's why that happens. So glucagon now comes, and the body starts to release the stores of glucose from the liver. Well, let me back up. It starts to release stores of glucose from wherever it is. I said liver, but there's some other places. Okay. Gluconeogenesis is starting, and so the body's now breaking down glycogen from the liver to convert it back into sugar. So this is kind of like going to the grocery store and you come home and you've bought whatever it is you're going to cook, right? So you bring home, you go to one of these big stores where you can get, a 20, 30 pound bag of rice for $2. And you come home, well, you're not cooking all of that 20 pound bag. So you take a couple of cups and you put it in your pot and you cook that. The rest of it goes into storage, long-term storage, the pantry. And you cook the rice and you eat some of it, but you say you and your family ate 1.5 cups of rice, but you have that extra half a cup because I said you did 2, right? So what do you do with that extra half a cup? Well, you take and you put it in the refrigerator. Right? So you cook some, which you're eating. Some goes in the refrigerator for ready access. You don't have to cook it again. You can just go get it. And then some goes into the pantry. And so we don't go to the pantry, the fat cells, until we've used what's in the blood. And we don't use what's in the blood until we've used up what just came in. So you see the progression? Okay. So what's going on now is the body is now going back and taking some of the stored sugar and is converting it back, stored carbs, that is converting it back into sugar so that we can use that. Your energy levels begin to fluctuate because now the blood sugar is going down and the body's having to start wondering, okay, what do I do now? Where do I get more energy? And so 12 to 18 hours, this is the transition to using fat. So remember, we have in our bodies, we have the ability to use carbohydrates and we have the ability to use fat to convert it to key. Or let me back up. So we have the ability to use carbohydrates and we have the ability to use fat. Carbohydrates get turned into sugar, fat gets turned into ketones, and these are the components of energy that we use in the body. And it's kind of like that hybrid car. When your gas runs out, if your battery is charged and full, then the car switches over to using the battery. Just like in the body, when your carbs, your sugar level goes down, the body switches over to burning fat, and it breaks that down into ketones that the body then uses. Okay, and so that's what's going on in this transition phase. And if we go to the 18 to 24 hours, so ketosis now, right? So ketones are increasing, right? Glycogen stores are nearly depleted, and the body's signaling now, hey, we need more energy, we need ketones, and so the body's now looking and say, hey, let's go to the fat cells and break that down. Autophagy begins. Hey. We did a show when we did our check-in, the last episode on autophagy. That amazing recycling cleanup process that the body has, the detoxification process that the body uses to take broken, damaged, unused cells and sends them off, recycles them, repackages them, and brings them back as new parts of the body. New healthy, by the way, parts of the body. So autophagy is beginning here. And initial stages of mental clarity, right, can be seen here. When we said that we did a show on mental clarity, why does fasting cause that? Well, fasting causes that because now we have a more stable blood sugar or stable energy source. When we're doing sugar, remember glucagon and insulin, they're going like this, right, to try to maintain a certain level of blood sugar. We don't have that with the ketones. There's fat, it gets turned into ketones, and the body uses it. Okay, and the brain actually likes ketones, by the way. All right, so ketosis is beginning in that 18 to 24 hour. And then 24 to 30 hour, this is our fat adaptation. So we are now fully in the process of using fat to ketones. One of the questions that people will ask, and let me hop over there really quickly, and let's take a look at my Dexcom. And people will say to me, well, Dr. Woode, I don't understand something. And I was like, oh, what don't you understand? They said, well, if you've been fasting now for 71 hours and 46 minutes, why is your blood sugar 80? Why is it not like 0? Because we said that the body's using fat to turn it into ketones, and ketones that's not sugar. Well, when the body breaks fat down, it creates these things called triglycerides, and you've probably heard that phrase. Those of you who get labs, it's on your lab slip. Triglycerides. So triglycerides are a transportation form of fat, and so it is 3 fatty acids attached to what's called a glycerol backbone. Think about a pitchfork, right? So 1, 2, 3, and then this part. Okay, and so we break this off, and that goes to form the ketones. But what about the main part of that? What's about the body of it? Well, that body, glycerol, triglyceride. So glyceride almost sounds like glycogen, which is also glucose. And so the body has the ability to take triglycerides, and it sends the free fatty acids off to convert that to ketones. But the glycerol part can be turned into sugar. Yeah. So even when you're not eating, your body still has access to sugar. And so when we look at my blood sugars, one of the reasons that my blood sugar is not 0 is that my body has ample amount of fat to turn into ketones, but it also has some of that is turning into sugar. Okay, and it's maintaining that. But that's a question that I get all the time, so I wanted to make sure that I addressed that. Okay, so fat adaptation is occurring here in the 24 to 30 hour time frame, and so hunger begins. So what shouldn't be begins? Hunger essentially is going away, right? So I tell people whenever I'm fasting, that first, I don't know, 10, 12 hours, and maybe 18 hours, then yeah, there is this hunger. And a lot of it actually has to do with the brain, right? Those habits. We see other people going to eat, or it's lunchtime, or it's whatever time it is, and our brain says, oh, we're supposed to be eating now. But during this period, as we're doing fat adaptation, that will subside. So that's the preparing for the fast itself, getting through the fast, and just like we talked about with the preparing for the fast, you want to make sure that you're getting enough rest. Make sure you're staying hydrated. Make sure you're reducing stress during this period. Because all of those, if we don't do those, that can derail us and set us up for not having a good fasting experience. And then breaking the fast. And breaking the fast just as important, y'all, as how we go through the fast. Because if you don't break the fast well, you can undo some of the benefits that you had during the fast. Because we overeat and a whole host of other things, which let's go ahead and let's just hop into that and talk about it. So fasting, just some general comments about fasting as we move into that space. One, you want to make sure that you are monitoring blood sugars. Now, a lot of you say, well, I don't have a meter, I'm not diabetic. Well, in the process of improving our metabolism, we want to know what the foods that we're eating is doing to our body. We want to know what certain activities are doing to our body. So I recommend for anybody that I'm working with that they monitor their blood sugars. Because when we eat, we can see what's going on with the foods we're eating. And remember, the food that we eat, those spikes in blood sugar can cause spikes in insulin as well. Okay, so monitoring blood sugar. And then portion control. Just because you fasted doesn't mean you have the right, or you can go and just eat a 7-course meal when you break the fast. All right, we'll talk about that. You'll see what I'm using here in just a minute. So portion control, so important. Eat slowly. If you don't eat slowly, you're going to end up eating more than you should. So just take your time, savor the food, enjoy the process. And then avoid sugary, highly processed foods. The big culprit, of course, is insulin. And if we are eating highly processed, high sugary foods, then as soon as we break that fast, that blood sugar shoots up, and the insulin comes out, and the insulin is a storage hormone, so weight goes up. Insulin is an appetite stimulator, so we're feeling ravenous, and we get all those cravings. And we spend the next 24, 36 hours fighting that. Whatever you break the fast with is typically what you're going to be eating for the next 12 to 36 hours. All right, so you want to make sure that you're breaking the fast well so that you can continue that process. Make sure you're hydrated. So hydration comes in again, right? So water, coconut water, unsweetened, will help replenish you, will help you feel refreshed. Herbal teas, we've talked about that. That calms you as well, and it does the same thing here in the post-fast period. Make sure you're eating protein. Protein will help keep you full, help blunt the spikes in blood sugar that you will see depending on the types of things you eat. So good proteins will be, chicken, turkey, tofu, eggs, tempeh for some people. All of those are good sources. And one that's not on there, which, well, I won't say it because I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Healthy fats, right? Avocado, nuts, seeds. Yeah, last week we broke the fast with some avocado, with sprinkled with some sea salt, Himalayan salt, and black pepper. Delicious, y'all. Delicious. Nuts. That's my kryptonite. Well, I should say my kryptonite. No, it's not my kryptonite. I love nuts. And actually, I got some today. I'm not using that to break the fast because if I do, it's on. I did get some, and I got the small one. Steve, if you're out there, I didn't get the big pack, or I got the small. I got the really small one. So healthy fats, and then broths, right? Using broths, vegetable broth, bone broth, all of those are good to help you remain hydrated and to get some nutrients into you. I try to maintain ketosis even post fast, so I try to maintain that. Not for a long time, but even for the first 12 hours sometimes, I'll try to do that as I'm eating. And so considerations when we talk about fasting, choose foods that help maintain stable blood sugars. Choose foods that are nutrient dense, right? So big point there. We want to focus on low glycemic index foods. That's a glycemic index that's 50 or less. Lean protein, healthy fats, and make sure that you are staying hydrated. Okay? So how you get into the fast, preparing for the fast, just as important as the fast itself, how you get through the fast, and that's just as important as how we break the fast, because we can set ourselves up for success, or we can undo some of the things that we do in the fast if we're not careful. All right, so let's take a look at my Dexcom Clarity Report, and then we'll come over and take a look at my ketones. So what do you think? Let's see. Let's go here. Oh, so I could bring your comments up in that screen, by the way. But I can't bring them on my main screen, it looks like. All right, so here is our report. I like this view, so let's use this one. And there is my average blood sugar for the last 14 days. You'll see I'm in target 90% of the time, with target being 70 to 180. Glucose management indicator is 6.5. So if I were to get an A1C, right, it would approximate that. So the glucose management indicator is a calculated estimate, if you will, of what the A1C would be. If I look at my 90-day average, it's probably going to be like 130, 135. Yeah, 135. So you'll see that there. With a glucose management indicator of 6.5, I'm in target 85% of the time, and that is a target of 70 to 180. So we'll see what my A1C is here coming up in a little bit, because I've got a doctor's appointment coming up in a couple weeks. So I need to get lab work in preparation for that. So we'll see. So 6.5 is what it's estimating. If I go into the daily graphs, I'll have that come up here in just a minute. Let's see. So let's back up. So we started fasting. Let's see. So 72, 48, 24. Yeah. So starting fasting right here about 7 o'clock. I shouldn't say about, but at 7 o'clock. So blood sugar 162 when I started fasting. And you'll see rise in the blood sugar following that meal. But then the blood sugar started going down, 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 down. We get a little spike right here because of toothpaste. And I keep saying I gotta get different types of toothpaste. And then blood sugar continues going down. So at 24 hours, we went from 162 to 112. Blood sugar continues to drop, go down, 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 down. And right here, once again, that's our toothpaste. And then it dropped below 70 in those initial days. And then my sensor went out, and I didn't put a new sensor in until right before we went live in our show. And you'll see that blood sugar 80s, 90s. And then 20 or 72 hours will be right here with blood sugars of 81. And on the screen, let's go here, you'll see right there that my blood sugar is 82. Okay, you'll see that that graph up in the upper. No, this right. Well, wait a minute, right here. Nope, right. What? Right there. Okay. All right. So that's what my graphs have looked like. Now let's hop over and let's take a look at my ketones. So what do you think my ketones will be? So let's get this out and let's pull up my Keto Mojo. There we go. And let's go ahead and turn that on. And And it should begin syncing there in just a minute. So when I checked in last night, my ketones were my blood sugar was 69, ketones were 1.1. Oh, okay, and it just came up. So 67 blood sugar and ketones of 1.6 is where I am right now. So when we talk about ketones, right? So if we take a look at the graph, to the left side of that graph is when I started fasting. Started eating last week when I broke my fast. So, well, let's do it this way. Let's back up. Okay, here we are. So as I ate after breaking the fast, blood sugars went up. That's the tan line. And then the turquoise line, those are the ketones going down. Remember, ketones and insulin can't be in the same space. So as blood sugar rises, insulin goes up. When insulin goes up, ketones have to go down. And that's what you see there. As I ate, the blood sugar went up, ketones went down. And then I started fasting this week, and blood sugars started going down. The tan line is dropping, and ketones started going up, rising until what we have. Let me expand that a little bit. Until what we have now. Okay? So also when we talk about ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis. And above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. Okay? And we want, if we're talking about fasting and the benefits that we get from fasting, we want our ketones to be 0.5 or higher. We did in our community meetup yesterday. We talked about that. Talked about ketones and what we want ketones to be. And so now, let's see. What am I going to break my fast with? Let's see. Let's do this one. So I'm going to break my fast with broth and cheese. Broth and cheese. So that worked well for me last week. Of course, last week I had some avocado. We didn't have any avocado. We have guacamole, but we're not going to do that. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to eat a salad. So I'm going to start with this, and then I'm going to eat a salad. So you get to see me here for the very first time in 72 hours. Yay, yay, yay. So for 72 hours, first time in 72 hours, you get to see me eat take my first bite. Here we go. Let's see. And so in here I have, let's go back over here. In here I have some sausage, and I think that's some hot dog as well. So let's do that. Of course, it's not hot anymore because I've been talking here on the show. Oh, that's good. A little spicy. Oh, I forgot those are spicy hot dogs. Not hot dog, sausage. Oh, good, good. Oh, let me take a sip. Oh, that is so good, y'all. Broth. So, let me see. If I have my Yuka app. Oh yeah, that's a little bit more spicy than I anticipated. That's my allergies added to the spiciness. Okay. So my Yuka app, remember last week I talked about the type of broth I was using. And I thought I had it in here. There it is. So chicken style broth. And also, I have in here beef broth mixture. All right. And then I don't have a fork. I didn't bring a fork, but we're gonna have some of this cheese. Mm. That's good. Mm, 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 mm. Mm. All right. So let's see. Let's see. We've got some comments. Actually, let me see if I can do this. Let's do it this way. There we go. I can bring those up. So, Steve said, "Is this live?" Oh, Teresa said, "Hey, Steve, is this live?" Steve says, "Yes." She said, "Okay, I've lost track. Great job. Maybe in the future we can do a 72-hour fast." Is what Steve is saying. Awesome, awesome. All right. So, as we talk about fasting and reversing our diabetes, I want to convince you, I want you to know that you have unlimited ability. You have unlimited ability, y'all. Steve is saying that his ketones are 1.6. You have unlimited ability to create your destiny. You have unlimited ability to effect change in your metabolism. You have the power at your fingertips. You have unlimited potential to chart your destiny. And here on the channel, we educate, we empower, and we encourage. That's your way of harnessing that power, of accessing that power, so that you can set yourself up for success. We educate, we empower, we encourage. We educate with the shows that we do, the blogs, the podcasts. We encourage, or we empower with the tools that we're learning, and we encourage with the community that you're a part of. When you show up, right, the triple E formula for success: education, empowerment, encouragement. Harness that. Take hold of that. Remember that there are some things that are going to push you to break your fast, to get off of your plan, to get off of your eating, journey, and they're given by the HEAT model: habits, emotions, access, and taste. Habits that we form, the routines where we eat just because, not because we're hungry, but everybody else is eating, or there's a function, or we go to the movies. We eat because of emotions. When we're happy, we're sad, we're glad, we're mad. All of those things will push us to eat if those emotions get high enough. We eat because of access, when things are just around us. That's why I don't usually bring nuts into the house, or into, at least here. We brought some today. And then we eat because of taste, the perfect combination of fat, sugar, and salt. The bliss point, where you can't just eat one. You're coming back over and over and over. That's how food is designed, to get you to eat more. But we're not chasing the food. We're chasing what the food does, the calm that it brings, that memory that it brings back to us, where we had that thing, where we ate that thing at that place at that time when we felt that way, right? All of that. So we eat because of HEAT model. And we're introducing the COPE model, the COPE mechanism that we're using to combat this. Make sure you join us on our show, Dwain Woode NV Live, 7 o'clock Central on Monday. But when you come, the call to action is this: join the challenges. Every month we do a challenge. Make sure you are part of the challenge. The challenge is where you get to implement, where you get to exercise, where you get to work, where you get to practice the things that we learn. Don't just let the shows be something that you put on the shelf, but make sure that you are doing them. Make sure you're involved. And then when you show up, just like we're seeing here, go ahead and let us know what's going on. Share your story. Like Steve says that he is that his ketones are 1.6. Okay, Teresa's clapping, right? Everybody, they're saying hello to each other. Whatever platform you're on, right? So those of you who are on YouTube, you don't necessarily see the people on Instagram. People on Instagram don't necessarily see the people on YouTube, and that's a whole nother conversation. But where you are, share your story. Share your story. Okay. I'm glad that you are there, and I see a bunch of you over there on Instagram. So thank you for joining us. But share your story. When we see your success, then we know we can be successful. When we hear your struggles, where we see places where you're having challenges, we can come alongside, we can come and rally around you, and you know you're not alone, and then we know that we're not alone. And then invite a friend. Tell somebody about this space where they can come and improve their metabolic health. There are over 1 billion people on the planet. You can be a voice for change. Over 1 billion people on the planet that have diabetes or metabolic syndrome. Or pre-diabetes. Let me finish that sentence. You can be a voice for change. You can be a voice that says, hey, we don't have to go out like this. We can chart our metabolic destiny. Invite them here. Come with them. Say, hey, let's go watch this show. There are probably 40 episodes in our New Year, New You, How to Reverse Diabetes playlist. The fasting, how to fast successfully is out there on the playlist. Go ahead, watch them. Bring your group together. Do it at your church. Do it at your home. Do it at your families. Do it at your doctor's office, in your community center. You know someone that needs the information. So you can be a mentor for them as they walk through the New Year, New You process. Yep. And then remember our pillars. The reason we're using fasting is that it hits all the pillars. It decreases insulin, it suppresses the appetite, and it reduces sugar. That's why fasting is such a powerful tool that we are using in this process. Hey. I'm always glad when you are here, when I get a chance to spend some time with you. We have our videos from the vault that's coming up on Saturday night at 9 p.m. Central. Then on Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Central, we have This Week in Review. And then, of course, we're back here in the saddle Monday at 7 p.m. Central for This Week, for Dwain Woode MD Live. Dwain Woode MD Live, Monday at 7 p.m. Central. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and in this year, New Year, New You. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend.